I found out my daughter was having an affair, and when I confronted her, she said, "I do it to escape from you." Hi everyone! Before we get into today's video, I need your help. We've noticed that the channel's reach has been dropping a bit, and one of the best ways you can support us is by subscribing. It's quick, free, and helps us keep bringing you new and interesting stories. Your support means the world to us, and together we can grow this channel. Thank you so much. Now let's get to today's story. I'm writing from a temporary account for obvious reasons, and I've changed some details to protect my anonymity. The coffee had gone cold in my hands. I was sitting at the kitchen table on a Tuesday morning, the kind of ordinary morning that feels sacred in its simplicity. Sunlight streaming through the window, birds at the feeder, the newspaper folded neatly beside my cup. Everything in its place, everything as it should be. And then the phone screen lit up. It wasn't my phone. It was Emma's. My daughter had left it on the counter when she went upstairs to shower, something she never did, always keeping it close like an extension of her hand. But this morning, she'd been distracted, hurried, running late for work. The notification appeared on the locked screen. Just a preview, just enough to see. "Last night was perfect. I keep thinking about your hands on my..." The rest was cut off. But it was enough. My first thought was that I'd misread it. My eyes aren't what they used to be, and sometimes the small text blurs. I picked up the phone, my hands suddenly unsteady, and read it again. The sender's name was just an initial. M. My second thought was that it must be a mistake, something meant for someone else, a message delivered to the wrong number. These things happen. Technology fails us in small, embarrassing ways. But then I remembered the way Emma had been lately. The distracted smiles, the extra care with her appearance, the phone calls she took in other rooms, her voice dropping to a murmur I couldn't quite hear through the walls. The nights she came home late from work, her hair slightly mussed, her lipstick gone. I'd noticed these things, filed them away without examining them too closely. Because to examine them would mean to question, and to question would mean to doubt, and I didn't want to doubt my daughter. I'd raised her to be honest, to be faithful, to be good. I set the phone back down exactly where she'd left it, as if I could undo the seeing by undoing the touching. The water shut off upstairs. I heard her moving around in the bedroom, the familiar sounds of her getting ready. Emma had been staying with us for a few weeks, while her husband, Daniel, was away on an extended business trip to Singapore. 2 months, maybe 3. She said she didn't like being alone in their apartment, that the silence made her anxious. I'd been happy to have her. My daughter back under my roof, even temporarily. We'd fallen into old rhythms, breakfast together, evening television, conversations about everything and nothing. It felt like reclaiming something I'd lost when she moved out 6 years ago, when she married Daniel at 23. Too young, I'd thought then. But I hadn't said it. I'd learned, slowly and painfully over the years, to keep some thoughts to myself. Emma came down the stairs in a navy dress, her hair still damp, her makeup perfect. She was beautiful, my daughter. She had her father's dark eyes and my cheekbones, and something entirely her own, a kind of self-possession I'd never quite managed to achieve. "Sorry, Mom, running late," she said, grabbing her phone and her purse in one smooth motion. "Big presentation this morning. Don't wait up tonight, drinks with clients after." She kissed my cheek, a quick brush of lips, and was gone before I could respond. I sat in the empty kitchen and listened to her car pull out of the driveway. The coffee had gone completely cold now. I poured it down the sink and made a fresh cup, my hands moving through the familiar motions while my mind spun in unfamiliar territory. An affair. My daughter was having an affair. The words felt foreign in my mouth, like a language I'd never learned to speak. This wasn't something that happened in our family. We weren't those people. I'd raised Emma with clear values, with a strong moral compass, with an understanding of what marriage meant, till death do us part, in sickness and in health, forsaking all others. I knew those vows by heart. I'd spoken them myself 32 years ago to Emma's father, and I'd kept them even when keeping them was hard, even when Michael drank too much and yelled too loud and made me feel small in 100 subtle ways. I'd kept them because that's what you did. You made a promise, and you honored it. I'd taught Emma the same, or I thought I had. I spent the day in a fog. I cleaned the house, though it was already clean. I made dinner, though I had no appetite. I sat in the living room as evening fell, staring at the television without seeing it, waiting for Emma to come home. She didn't come home until after 11. I heard her car, then her key in the lock, then her footsteps in the hall. She stopped when she saw me sitting in the dark living room, lit only by the glow of the muted television. "Mom? Why are you sitting in the dark?" I turned on the lamp. The sudden light made both of us blink. "We need to talk," I said. Something flickered across her face. Caution, maybe. Or guilt. But she smiled. That same distracted smile I'd been seeing for weeks. "Can it wait until tomorrow? I'm exhausted, and I have an early meeting." "No," I said. "It can't wait." She sat down slowly on the couch, setting her purse beside her. In the lamplight, I could see the smudge of makeup at the corner of her eye, the slight flush still on her cheeks. She looked happy, radiant even. And that made it worse somehow. "What's wrong?" she asked. I'd spent all day preparing for this conversation, rehearsing what I'd say, how I'd say it. I'd planned to be calm, measured, to approach it delicately. But now that the moment was here, all those careful words dissolved. "I saw a message on your phone this morning," I said, "from someone called M." The color drained from her face. "You went through my phone?" It lit up on the counter. I didn't go through anything. I just saw the notification. She stood up, suddenly agitated. "You had no right." "Emma." My voice was sharper than I intended. "That's not the point. The point is what the message said. Who is M?" Silence, long and terrible. "It's not what you think," she finally said. "Then tell me what it is." She turned away from me, walked to the window, stood with her back to me. Her shoulders were rigid, her hands clenched at her sides. "You wouldn't understand. Try me." "Mom, please, just leave it alone." "Leave it alone?" I felt something crack open inside me, something hot and sharp. "Emma, you're married. You're having an affair. How am I supposed to leave that alone?" She spun around, and there was something in her eyes I'd never seen before. Not shame, not regret, something harder, colder. "Yes," she said. "I'm having an affair. There. Are you happy now? Is that what you wanted to hear?" I stared at her, this woman who looked like my daughter, but suddenly seemed like a stranger. "How could you?" I whispered. "Daniel loves you. He trusts you. You made vows." "I know what vows I made." Her voice was cutting. "I was there, remember? You made sure of that." "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means exactly what it sounds like. You planned my wedding. You picked the venue, the flowers, the menu. You told me what dress to wear, who to invite, what music to play. You orchestrated the whole thing like it was your wedding, not mine." I was trying to help. "You were so young, so overwhelmed." "I was overwhelmed because you made it overwhelming. Because nothing was ever good enough for you. Because every decision had to be perfect, had to meet your standards, had to be exactly what you wanted." I felt like she'd slapped me. "That's not fair. I wanted you to have a beautiful wedding. I wanted everything to be special for you." "No, Mom. You wanted everything to be special for you. You wanted to prove to everyone that you'd raised me right, that I was the perfect daughter having the perfect wedding to the perfect man. It was never about what I wanted." "That's not true." "Isn't it?" She laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Do you even know why I married Daniel?" I opened my mouth, closed it again. "Because she loved him. Because they were good together. Because—" "I married him because you approved of him," Emma said. "Because he checked all your boxes. Good job, good family, good prospects. Because you made it very clear that he was the kind of man I should marry. And I was so tired, Mom. So tired of fighting you, of trying to have my own opinions, of never being quite good enough. So I said yes, and I walked down that aisle in the dress you chose, and I spoke the vows you wanted me to speak, and I became the wife you wanted me to be. Each word was a knife. If you didn't want to marry him, you should have said so. I would have understood. Would you? She looked at me with something like pity. Really? You would have understood if I'd called off the wedding a month before? If I'd walked away from Daniel, from the perfect life you'd planned for me? I thought about that day, about the phone call when Emma had told me Daniel proposed, about how my first words were, "Oh, thank God," because I'd been so worried she'd end up alone, or worse, with someone unsuitable. Someone like her father had been when I met him, charming but unreliable, exciting but unstable. Daniel is a good man, I said weakly. Yes, Emma agreed. He is. He's a very good man. He's kind and decent, and he loves me. And I do care about him. But I don't love him, Mom. I never did. Not the way I should. The room spun slightly. I gripped the arm of the chair. Then why? Why are you with someone else? Why not just leave Daniel if you're not happy? Because leaving would mean admitting I made a mistake. And we don't make mistakes in this family, do we? We make the right choices. We do the proper thing. We live up to expectations. That's not— Mom! She cut me off, her voice suddenly tired. Why do you think I'm having an affair? I don't know. That's what I'm asking. She looked at me for a long moment, and I saw something shift in her face. The anger faded, replaced by something sadder, deeper. I do it to escape from you. The words hung in the air between us. For a moment, I couldn't process them. They were sounds without meaning, syllables that didn't connect to anything real. What? I do it to escape from you, she repeated, softer now. When I'm with M, I'm not your daughter. I'm not the perfect wife living the perfect life. I'm not the person you shaped and molded and tried to make into some ideal version of yourself. I'm just me, just Emma. And I don't even know who that is anymore. But for a few hours at a time, I get to pretend I'm finding out. I couldn't breathe. The room had become too small, the air too thin. You're blaming me for your affair? No. She shook her head. I'm not blaming you. I'm taking responsibility. I'm the one who made this choice. But you asked why, and I'm telling you why. I'm telling you that I've spent 29 years trying to be what you wanted, and somewhere along the way, I lost myself. And now I'm so lost. I don't know how to find my way back, except by doing something so completely wrong, so completely against everything you taught me, that for a moment I can feel like I'm making my own choices. That's insane, I whispered. Maybe. She picked up her purse. Or maybe it's the sanest thing I've done in years. Where are you going? To a hotel. I can't stay here tonight. I can't. Her voice cracked. I can't be in this house right now. Emma, wait. But she was already gone. I heard the front door close, heard her car start, heard the sound of her leaving fade into the night. And then there was only silence. I sat in the living room until dawn, watching the darkness slowly give way to gray light. My mind kept replaying the conversation, turning her words over and over, trying to find the place where I'd misunderstood, where she'd been wrong, where this could all make sense in a way that didn't make me the villain of my own daughter's life. But every time I circled back, I came to the same conclusion. I do it to escape from you. When did I become something she needed to escape from? I thought about Emma as a child, small and serious, with those huge dark eyes that seemed to see everything. She was quiet, careful, always trying to anticipate what I wanted before I asked for it. I thought that meant we had a special bond, that she understood me in ways others didn't. Now I wondered if it just meant she was afraid of disappointing me. I remembered her 6th birthday party. She'd wanted a small gathering at the park, just a few friends, simple games. But I'd insisted on something bigger, something memorable. I'd rented a venue, hired a magician, invited her entire class. She'd cried at some point during the party, overwhelmed by the noise and the crowd, and I'd been irritated. After all the work I'd put in, couldn't she just be grateful? I remembered her high school years, the piano lessons she never seemed to enjoy, but continued because I'd invested so much money in them, the college applications I'd helped her write, or had I written them while she watched? The major I'd encouraged her toward. Something practical, Emma, something that will give you security, instead of the art program she'd mentioned once and never brought up again. I remembered the night Daniel proposed. Emma had come to me with the ring, and I'd immediately started planning. We'll need at least a year to plan properly, I'd said. June wedding, obviously. The roses will be beautiful. I know exactly the right venue. And Emma had nodded, smiled, agreed to everything. Had she ever said what she wanted? Or had I never given her the space to speak? The sun was fully up now, harsh light flooding the living room. I looked around at this house I'd kept so perfect, so ordered. Every surface clean, every decoration precisely placed, every element controlled. Is this what I'd done to Emma's life too? Tried to keep it perfect, ordered, controlled? My phone rang, startling me out of my thoughts. It was my sister, Linda. We talked every Thursday morning, a ritual we'd maintained for years. "Hey," she said when I answered. "How's it going?" I opened my mouth to say fine, to give my usual response, but instead, something broke. "Linda," I said, my voice cracking, "I think I've ruined my daughter's life." There was a pause. What happened? And I told her. All of it. The message, the confrontation, Emma's words. My sister listened without interrupting, and when I finished, the silence on the other end was heavy. "Diana," Linda finally said, "can I say something you might not want to hear?" "Yes." "You've been doing this for years. Being controlling, I mean. Making everything about what you think is right. That's not... Listen to me. Remember when Emma was 12 and wanted to try out for the school play, but you convinced her to do soccer instead because you thought it would look better on college applications? Remember when she was 16 and wanted to dye her hair blue, and you told her she'd regret it? That people would judge her? That it wasn't appropriate? Remember when she got into art school and you cried until she chose the business program instead? Each memory was a small wound reopening. I was trying to protect her, I said. I was trying to help her make good choices. Were you? Or were you trying to make sure she didn't make the same mistakes you did? What's that supposed to mean? Linda sighed. Diana, you married Dad young. You gave up your scholarship to follow him. You put your life on hold while he drank and raged and made you small. And you've spent Emma's entire life trying to make sure she didn't end up like you did. But in trying to protect her from your mistakes, you never let her make her own choices. You never let her be her own person. I closed my eyes. My sister's words were true, and the truth hurt worse than anything. I just wanted her to be happy, I whispered. I know. But Diana, you can't make someone happy. You can only give them the freedom to find their own happiness. And you never gave Emma that freedom. After we hung up, I sat with Linda's words. I thought about my own life, my own choices. I'd married Michael because I was pregnant and scared, and my parents expected it. I'd stayed with him because I'd promised to, because leaving felt like failure, because I didn't know how to be anything other than his wife. I'd been miserable for 25 years before he finally drank himself to death. And somewhere in that misery, I decided that Emma would be different. Emma would be happy. Emma would have the life I never did, stable, secure, proper. Emma would make all the right choices. I'd never asked Emma what her right choices would be. I'd only told her what mine would have been. The days passed slowly. Emma didn't call, didn't come by. I texted her once, "Can we talk?" and received a brief response. "Not yet. Need time." I tried to give her that time. I tried to busy myself with the rhythms of daily life, but everything reminded me of her. The coffee cup she'd used that morning, the room where she'd stayed, the silence that no longer felt peaceful but accusatory. I started going through old photo albums, searching for clues I'd missed. There were hundreds of pictures of Emma birthdays, holidays, graduations, weddings. In almost every photo, she was smiling. But looking at them now, with new eyes, I saw something I'd never noticed before. The smiles never quite reached her eyes. How had I missed that? How had I looked at my daughter for 29 years and never seen that she wasn't happy? Because I was looking for what I wanted to see. I was looking for confirmation that I'd done everything right, that my choices for her had been correct. I was looking at my creation, not at my daughter. 2 weeks after our confrontation, Emma finally agreed to meet me. Not at the house. She suggested a coffee shop downtown, neutral territory. I arrived early and sat at a corner table, my hands wrapped around a cup I wasn't drinking. When Emma walked in, I barely recognized her. She'd cut her hair short, dyed it a deep auburn. She was wearing jeans and a leather jacket I'd never seen before. She looked different. She looked free. She sat down across from me, ordered a black coffee, waited until the barista left before speaking. "How are you?" she asked. "I've been better," I admitted. "How are you?" "Honestly, I don't know." She wrapped her hands around her cup, mirroring my gesture. "I moved out of the apartment. Daniel and I are separating." My heart clenched. "Emma." "It's the right thing to do," she said firmly. "I should have done it years ago. It's not fair to him, being married to someone who doesn't love him the way he deserves. He's hurt, angry. He has every right to be. But he also said he always knew, somehow, that I was never fully there." "Where are you staying?" "With M. His name is Marcus. He's a graphic designer. We met at a coffee shop 6 months ago. We started talking about art, and it was the first real conversation I'd had in years. The first time someone asked me what I wanted, what I thought, what I dreamed about, and actually listened to the answer." She looked at me, and her eyes were both defiant and pleading. "I'm not asking you to approve, Mom. I'm not asking you to understand. I'm just telling you the truth." "Are you happy?" I asked. "With him?" She considered the question. "I don't know if I'm happy, but I'm more myself than I've been in a long time, and that feels like a start." We sat in silence for a moment. Around us, the coffee shop hummed with life people talking, laughing, living their ordinary days. I envied them their normalcy. "Emma," I said slowly, "I need to tell you something, and I need you to listen, really listen, without interrupting." She nodded. I took a breath. "I'm sorry. I'm sorry for trying to control your life. I'm sorry for not listening when you tried to tell me what you wanted. I'm sorry for making your wedding about me, for pushing you toward Daniel, for making you feel like you had to be perfect all the time. I'm sorry for all the ways I hurt you while telling myself I was helping you." My voice cracked, but I pushed through. "Your father and I had a terrible marriage. I was young and pregnant and scared, and I made choices that trapped me for 25 years. I was so determined that you wouldn't end up like me that I never considered you might want something completely different. I never asked you what you wanted. I just decided for you, and I'm sorry." Emma's eyes were shining with tears. "I thought I was protecting you," I continued, "but I was just projecting my fears onto you. And in trying to save you from my mistakes, I pushed you into making mistakes of your own." "Mom?" "No, let me finish. You said you had the affair to escape from me. And hearing that broke something in me, because I realized you were right. I'd become something you needed to escape from. I'd become the thing I was most afraid of becoming, someone who controlled, who suffocated, who made you feel small." I reached across the table and took her hand. She didn't pull away. "I can't undo the past. I can't give you back the choices I took from you, but I can promise you this. I will try to be better. I will try to listen instead of dictating. I will try to support you instead of shaping you. And I will try to love you as you are, not as I want you to be." Emma was crying now, tears streaming down her cheeks. "I don't know if I can forgive you," she whispered. "Not yet. Not completely." "I know," I said. I don't expect you to. I just needed you to know that I see it now. I see what I did. And I'm sorry. She squeezed my hand. Thank you for saying that. We sat there for a long time, holding hands across the table while our coffee went cold. It wasn't resolution. It wasn't healing. But it was a start. When we finally left the coffee shop, Emma hugged me. It was brief, tentative, but real. I'll call you, she said, when I'm ready, when I figure things out. Take your time, I told her. I'll be here. I watched her walk away, her new haircut catching the light, her shoulders straight. She looked like someone I was just beginning to know. That night, I started writing in a journal, something I hadn't done since I was young. I wrote about Emma, about Michael, about all the ways I'd tried to control my life by controlling hers. I wrote about fear and love, and the thin line between protecting and imprisoning. And I wrote this. I wanted to save my daughter from pain. But pain is part of living, part of growing, part of becoming yourself. By trying to shield her from every possible hurt, I hurt her in ways I'm only beginning to understand. She's having an affair. She's leaving her husband. She's making choices I don't agree with, choices that go against everything I taught her. But they're her choices. For the first time in her life, they're truly hers. And maybe that's what I should have wanted all along. Not a daughter who lived the life I planned for her, but a daughter brave enough to live her own life, even when it's messy, even when it's wrong, even when it breaks my heart. I don't know if Marcus is right for her. I don't know if leaving Daniel is the right choice. I don't know if she'll be happy or sad or somewhere in between. But I know this. She's choosing, she's deciding, she's becoming. And that's what I should have let her do years ago. I can't fix this. I can't make it better. All I can do is step back and let her find her own way, even if her way leads somewhere I never wanted her to go. Because the truth I'm finally learning is this. Being a mother doesn't mean molding your child into the person you think they should be. It means loving them enough to let them become whoever they are, even when it scares you, even when it hurts. I wanted to protect Emma from becoming me-trapped, miserable, small. But in trying to protect her, I made her feel exactly that way. So now I have to let go. I have to trust that somewhere in the chaos she's creating, she'll find herself. And I have to trust that when she does, she'll know that I'm here. Not to judge, not to fix, not to control. Just to love her. Finally, just to love her. Months passed. Emma and I spoke occasionally brief calls, careful texts. She told me about her life in pieces. The divorce proceedings with Daniel, who was handling it with more grace than she deserved. Her new apartment, small but hers. Her relationship with Marcus, which was intense and complicated, and sometimes wonderful and sometimes terrible. Her decision to quit her corporate job and start freelancing as a designer, something she'd always wanted to do but had been too afraid to try. I listened. I didn't offer advice unless she asked for it. I didn't tell her what I thought she should do. I just listened. It was harder than I'd imagined, this letting go. Every instinct screamed at me to intervene, to guide, to fix. But I'd spent 29 years doing that, and look where it had led. One evening, nearly 6 months after our coffee shop conversation, Emma called. Mom, are you free tomorrow afternoon? I'd like to come by. There's something I want to show you. Of course, I said, trying to keep the eagerness out of my voice. Anytime. She arrived the next day, carrying a portfolio case. We sat in the living room, the same room where I'd confronted her about the affair, where she'd told me she needed to escape from me. I've been working on something, Emma said, unzipping the portfolio. A series of illustrations about mothers and daughters. She pulled out a stack of drawings and spread them across the coffee table. They were beautiful, bold lines and vivid colors, each image telling a story. A mother holding a child, but the child's face was obscured, erased. A girl reaching for something just out of frame, while a woman's shadow loomed over her. 2 figures back to back, separated by a wall of words. And then the last image. 2 women sitting across from each other at a table, their hands almost touching, a gap between them that was beginning to close. "Emma," I breathed, "these are incredible." "They're about us," she said quietly, "about everything we've been through. I started drawing them after our fight. It was the only way I could process it all." "They're honest," I said, looking at the image of the shadowed girl. "They hurt to look at, but they're honest." "Yes." She gathered them up carefully. "I'm going to be showing them in a gallery next month. Marcus helped me get the space. It's my first real show, and I wanted you to be the first to see them. I'd like to come to the show," I said. "If that's okay?" "I'd like that too." She stayed for dinner. We cooked together, moving around each other in the kitchen with a new carefulness, like dancers learning unfamiliar steps. We talked about small things, her work, my garden, a book we'd both read. We didn't talk about Daniel or Marcus, or the affair, or the years of pain between us. But somehow, in not talking about those things, we made space for something new, something tentative but real. When she left, she hugged me at the door. This time, the hug lasted longer. "I'm still angry sometimes," she said against my shoulder. "I'm still hurt, but I'm also trying to understand. You did your best with what you knew." "It wasn't good enough," I said. "No," she agreed. "But it was something, and maybe that's where we start." After she drove away, I went back to my journal. I wrote about the drawings, about the dinner, about the hug. And I wrote this: "Emma is finding herself. It's messy and painful and sometimes wrong. And every day, I have to resist the urge to tell her how to do it better, faster, safer. But she's doing it. She's becoming someone I'm only beginning to know. Someone who cuts her hair short and wears leather jackets and draws pictures that hurt to look at because they're so true. Someone who is not me and never should have been. I wanted to save her from my life. Instead, I almost forced her to live it, trapped by expectations, suffocated by someone else's idea of who she should be. But she broke free. She made choices I wouldn't have made. She hurt people, including herself. She tore apart a life that looked perfect from the outside because it was empty on the inside. And now she's building something new. I don't know if it will work. I don't know if Marcus is the answer or just another escape. I don't know if she'll be happy or just less trapped. But I know she's choosing, and that has to be enough. Because the alternative where she stays small and safe and silent, where she lives the life I planned for her even though it's slowly killing her, that's not love. That's not protection. That's just another kind of prison. So I'm learning to let go, to watch from a distance, to offer love without conditions, support without strings. It's the hardest thing I've ever done. But maybe it's the most important. Maybe being a good mother isn't about making sure your child never makes mistakes. Maybe it's about loving them enough to let them make their own mistakes and being there when they need you, not to say, "I told you so," but just to say, "I'm here." Emma needed to escape from me, and I'm learning that the greatest gift I can give her is the space to do exactly that. Not because I don't love her, but because I do. The gallery show was crowded. I stood in the back, watching people examine Emma's work, hearing their comments, their interpretations. Some of them understood, some of them didn't. Emma stood near her drawings, answering questions, accepting compliments, glowing with a kind of pride I'd never seen in her before. She caught my eye across the room and smiled. It was a real smile, the kind that reached her eyes. And I smiled back, my heart full of 100 complicated emotions, regret and hope and love and loss all tangled together. My daughter was becoming herself. Finally, truly becoming herself. And I was learning to let her. It wasn't the ending I'd planned for us. It wasn't the happy resolution I'd dreamed of when she was a little girl. But it was real, and it was ours. And maybe that was enough.